Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the press conference. We really appreciate all of you being here today. I'm Senate President Warren Peterson. Alongside of me, we have several lawmakers and some people that are going to speak about this pending important issue for Arizona, which is housing affordability. I just want to introduce you to a few of the members that are here this morning. We have Senator Dave Farnsworth, we have Representative Carter, we have Representative Carbone, Representative Diaz, Speaker Toma, Majority Leader Borelli, and Majority Leader Biasucci. We also have several people that are going to speak to us today. Marcus Forrester, Marine and founder of Veterans 5-9, Carolina Gomez, a realtor, Arisleda Perez, a local lender, and Sharice Dickerson, a single mother of 3. I'd also like to thank Tom Mulhern and Pat Maroney of AZADU for their support in this. We're here today because the American dream of home ownership has become unattainable for many hardworking Arizona families and young adults. Right now, the median income for Arizona household ranges between $60,000 and $70,000. Unfortunately, since January 2020, the median Arizona home sale price has skyrocketed 53% and currently sits at a whopping $430,000. This means many of our school teachers, police officers, firefighters, and other essential workers who keep our state running can't afford to purchase a home within the communities they're serving. Meanwhile, we have people that are moving here in droves. Hundreds of people move here every single day. The reason they move here is because Arizona's safe. Arizona is a great place to raise your family. Arizona is a great place to work. And the reason that all these things are like that is because Republicans have been implementing good policies for well over a decade. And people are moving here and voting here with their feet. However, we haven't had enough homes built to support this growth. And while we've had great policies at the state level, on the local level, we have seen a rash and a ton of new regulations. I've had a front seat at this myself. When I was younger, 25 years ago, I could go out with a minimum wage job in Arizona and purchase a very nice home. And what we've seen over the last 25 years is that cities and counties have been increasing regulations to such an extent that it's making the cost of housing unaffordable. 25 years ago, developers, home builders could immediately respond to the demand that we have right now in Arizona and get homes up in a matter of months. Now that takes years. And when it takes years, things are not affordable. So government has been the problem, particularly local governments. Our country is rooted in individual liberties that allow us to purchase property free of government interference. But government interference is exactly what has been creating roadblocks for our cities, preventing many from being able to afford their first starter home. You know, my kids now, my age, they can't afford a home. But I could. I could afford a home when I was their age here in Arizona. And if you look at the homes of your parents. Look at the homes one of the first homes I bought, or look at one of the first homes your parents bought when they were younger. Did you know those homes are illegal to build now? So these homes were good enough for our parents, but they're not good enough for our kids. We believe homeownership is critical to family formation and community building. It provides freedom, stability, opportunity for upward mobility, and a savings tool for the middle class. Because of this, Majority Leaders Borelli and Biasucci are introducing the Arizona Starter Homes Act. We'll now hear from Majority Leader Biasucci to hear about this proposal.
Nope. Thank you, Mr. President. Peterson, thank you, colleagues, everybody, for being here. You know, I think, well, we'll wait for this to happen.
Sorry.
Hold on. Come on, guys. What? I'm usually late.
Yeah.
It's all good. They sure.
Trying to find a good spot.
They're not wrong
Yeah, and Senator
at all.
has arrived.
Thank you. All right, here we go. Look, I had a speech planned out, but President Peterson said all the things he had to say. But I think we all can agree here, especially how we have to make it easier for people to get into homes. When you have regulations that are in play that are saying you have to have a certain tile on your roof, you have to have your house painted a certain way, you have to have walls, you have to have all these certain things that are making it more difficult and more expensive, then we're going in the exact opposite of what we need to do. We need to make it easier for people to get into homes. You got to make it more affordable, because when you have these restrictions, when you have these guidelines that are making things more expensive, we're turning into a situation now where, like President Peterson said, $400,000 for a home, that is insane. Who in their right mind can afford anything like that? So our goal here at the legislature, led by our Republican colleagues behind me, is that let's figure out how to cut the red tape. Let's figure out how to get people back in a home, make it affordable, so that we can have that American dream of owning a home, which has obviously gone away in the state of Arizona. We have passed so many incredible policies in the state, whether it's tax cuts, we're getting rid of regulation, that now we are one of the top states for people to move to, and there's a reason why they move here. The weather is great. I mean, we're wearing shorts right now in Arizona in January, while people are freezing in blizzards up north. So there's a reason why people are moving here, and it's got to do with policy, it's got to do with great weather. Let's do what we need to do at the state legislature to get these people in a home. Let's make these homes more affordable. Let's cut the red tape. And I'm proud to say that we're pushing this kind of legislation right now to make that happen. Because talk is cheap, but once you actually do something about it, we're going to continue having this conversation over and over again. So I'm proud to say that we are doing that with this bill. I'm proud to say that we're taking the charge as Republicans to get everybody into a starter home in the state of Arizona. So I want to pass it over to Majority Leader Borelli. He's going to make a few more comments, and then we're going to take questions about this bill and other policy and other bills that we're running for people in Arizona to move into a home. So Majority Leader Borelli.
Thanks for being here this morning. Senate Bill 1112, the Starter Homes, the name of that Starter Homes Act, it is what it is. In Lake Havasu alone, the median sale of a home price is $450,000. When I moved to Lake Havasu City 24 years ago, the average home was $100,000. So starter homes used to be in abundance in Arizona. They're not anymore. For example, Maryville, the John L. Homes, once a haven for returning World War II veterans, sold for $8,000 in the 1950s. Adjusted for inflation, that would be $92,000 here in 2004. Just adjusted for inflation. But now look at the price of these homes that are going for there. The average home price sales in Phoenix, is $430,000, like the president had said. This problem becomes bigger and bigger every time local governments start restricting builders from building. For example, the size of the lots. The size of the lots have to be bigger than what normally should be. You have to remember, back in World War II, even before World War II, the railroads would build homes for their families to come and be able to work here. Same thing with mining, same thing with a lot of other industries, but they had those starter homes. And those days are gone. So we have cities that want to implement too many regulations on restricting buildings, such as Majority Leader said, the aesthetics of a roof being pitched a certain way, and not only that, but the prohibitions of HOAs. So you're forced to join HOAs. So what will 1112 do? Allows homes to be built on smaller lots, prohibits the cities from requiring home buyers to join HOAs, and allows home buyers a choice of their own aesthetics, features, paint colors, padding materials, the roof, etc., instead of the government. Every time the government gets in the way and starts slowing down building permits, that cost gets put on the builder, which gets passed on to the home buyer. Now, people are going to say, well, the veterans issue. Well, the Veterans Administration just raised the amount that a veteran can use to borrow. Well, the VA does not give out loans. They guarantee the loan. But that's based on your ability to buy, your debt ratio, income. Even with the Arizona Housing Finance Authority that awards a $4,000 grant that can be used towards a down payment and or closing costs, for veterans, it's 5%. Now that does kind of shorten the gap there on the debt ratio, but not enough because you still cannot afford to buy a home because the purchase price is too high, because the land is too expensive, there's too much government regulations that gets passed on to the home buyer. So that, Mr. President,
let's hear some
folks
speakers.
here.
Thank you.
You know what? We have a veteran here, Sergeant Forrester.
Yep.
Another Marine brother of mine. Yes, we're brothers from another mother.
Mm-hmm.
He was with 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, an Iraqi war veteran. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. So again, my name is Marcus Forrester. I'm a United States Marine, and I'm the founder, president of an organization called Veterans 5 to 9. I come here today to speak to you about the immense challenges Arizona veterans face in their attempts to buy their first home. Over the years, I've seen the consequences of not having affordable housing when assisting homeless veterans in our community. So many veterans I've spoken with on the front lines just want an opportunity to have peace and to share in the American dream that they have fought for. The Arizona Starter Homes Act is an invitation to a new era in Arizona home building, offering renewed hope for the Arizona veterans to realize their dream of home ownership. Zoning and regulations have been carved so deeply into our cities, towns, and our once great milestone of a veteran's life has been made an impossible task. The average home in Arizona is upwards of $400,000, and the average veteran's income in Arizona is $49,000. With such a disparity, a veteran's mortgage would be more than their monthly take-home pay. Our dedication and service is rewarded by the VA home loan program, but for many, that benefit has been reduced to the clause in a contract devoid of meaning. Between World War II and the Korean War, 1/5 of all single-family homes were financed using the VA home loan. Today, that number has dwindled to a mere 1 in 20. Post 9/11, there are 4.2 million more veterans, many of which will never be able to afford to buy a home in our great state. This is exactly why we are in urgent need of smart legislation that empowers our building infrastructure to meet the demands of our growing state. Homeowners should not be forced to buy homes in certain sizes and pay for features that they cannot afford. A huge house on a huge lot is not the point of buying a home. The essence of home ownership is not the structure, but between the four walls that keep our families safe and secure, the financial stability it provides, and of all others, the culmination of all of our hard work, training, deployments, and time away from families that add up to something more than just a house. They become a home. The price of the American dream has been raised so high that even our country's greatest heroes can no longer afford to provide a home for their families. Housing affordability weighs heavy on the hearts and minds of veterans across Arizona. Reforming zoning regulations to bring back a single-family starter home is not impossible. In fact, with the Starter Home Act, it is one vote away from being possible. I have built Veterans 5 to 9 on the humble words of no time for talk, just time for action. The time is now for action. Veterans 5 to 9 will champion restoring the starter home and proudly endorse the transformative legislation of the Arizona Starter Homes Act, paving the way to bring affordable housing back to our communities and, most importantly, back to our veterans in Arizona. Thank you. Semper Fi.
Carolina?
Yes,
Carolina?
Carolina.
Carolina Gomez?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carolina Gomez, and I'm a real estate agent here in the Valley. And I just work a lot with the Latino community. It's my community that I work 99%, and I see the struggle. They trying to qualify has to come 2-3 family members, as the cousin, the brother, sometimes family that's not even living here in Arizona to help them to qualify because the prices. So we really need to work in something, approve a law that can help them to qualify, because like the president said, they work hard, they work in jobs that nobody does, like dishwasher, landscaping, all these people, housekeeping, that they still in the price range of $12 to $15 an hour, $17, and a price that they cannot qualify for a home right now. You have to make $80,000 to $100,000 to qualify for the median price. So we really need to advocate for them and try to work in this law to get it passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Well
Good
done.
job, Mama.
Arisleda Perez.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arisleda Perez. I've been in the mortgage industry for 20 years, and I've seen it. I see our families having the hardest time to qualify now more than ever. We really need this laws like this to pass. We really need our Latinos family and veterans and workers that could afford a home, not needing to be 2-3 members of a family members to qualify for the loan. I live it every day. It's very sad that we have families that needs to keep renting just because they cannot afford a home. The salaries do not increase enough to be apart with the market rate and how it's going. They sometimes have to choose to go to rural areas that they don't really want to go that route, but that's the only way for them to actually qualify for a home or to buy a home. And on top of that, I really like to say that when they actually get to qualify for a loan, then they also have to compete with a lot of investors out there that bring cash to the table. And I think that probably is a factor that also have to be in consideration. So our workers' family could be a priority when it comes to aid, get an offer on the table and just not look at the money, but really seeing more than just an offer, but seeing a family getting into that home. So I'm happy to be here, and hopefully we could make something happen. Thank you.
Sharice Dickerson.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Sharice Dickerson. I am a single mom of 3, and my entire life I dreamed of owning a home for my children. Being a single mom, sometimes it seems like the impossible is actually impossible, but it's not. I've worked 2 and 3 jobs. I've sent myself through college with the goal of being able to buy a home for me and my family, and unfortunately, that dream kind of felt like it got flushed down the toilet when the economy prices spiked, the housing market spiked, even minimum wage. It's really difficult for anyone to live off of minimum wage right now, much less even buy a home. When I was working 3 jobs, one of my jobs was scrubbing toilets in a locker room at a gym just so that I could have that extra income to add to my savings to buy a house. And so standing here today, I know that I did not scrub toilets for absolutely no reason to not be able to buy a house. And I feel like all single parents, all families should have the opportunity to buy a home for their family. I'm currently paying rent, and I think that I should be able to buy a home for my children so that my money is going to something that we can call home, that I did myself. Like, I bought this, I struggled, I did this for my babies, and that also shows my children, oh wow, anything is possible, no circumstance will ever stop, my mom from doing what she wanted and providing a home for us. So I do believe that there needs to be a law for single parents, well, not single parents, for any family, for the majority of us to be able to buy a home, and that some things need to change so that someone else's dreams don't feel like they got flushed down the toilet. So thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me speak. Yes.
Senator Wendy Rogers from Flagstaff. This is a public safety issue for my district, for Flagstaff. Do you realize that the police force in Flagstaff is 40% undermanned? Because police officers can't afford to live in Flagstaff. Firefighters, teachers, those who uphold our community can't afford to live in Flagstaff. And it's because of this very thing that they can't buy a starter home. This is the #1 issue that blows up my phone and my email box are my constituents in Flagstaff. So this is a Phoenix metro area issue, yes, but it's a public safety issue in northern Arizona. Thank you.
Anybody else want to say anything? Is it good? Okay, well, great. Thank you all for being here. We'll open it up for a few questions.
Let me ask you a question.
Nope. Yes, right here.
What is the conversation with on SB
I'm sorry, can you talk louder?
Yeah, so what has the conversations been like with housing developers on this? If cutting back regulations, what does that mean for the people actually building those homes?
Yeah, so I've had a front seat to this. I've been involved with development and home building for 25 years. I can tell you, 25 years ago, when you had this kind of economy, or this kind of market where you have right now, where you have a very high demand, we could respond within a matter of 6 months. I'm talking everything, dirt to a house. All the engineering, all the platting, all the zoning, all the permits, electric, power, water, everything. You could get it done in a matter of 6 months. You know how long it takes to do that now? The minimum? 4 years. That's the minimum. I had somebody contact me not too long ago. They said, Warren, guess how long it took me to get my project approved? You want to know what he told me? Through the city? 16 years. Okay, let me tell you something, folks. If something takes 16 years to get approved, absolutely nothing in that community will be affordable. These people that are doing this have huge carrying costs. It's not even the interest rates you see out there. When you have a private investor, you're talking 7% to 20% a lot of times. And when that's been stacked on there, then you got to pay for it. The customer ends up paying for it. Not only that, 25 years ago, about 20 years ago, is when they started with all of the design review. This was a new phenomenon where literally the cities turned into HOAs and they designed the home for you. The developer and the home builder stopped designing the homes. Cities started designing the homes because they made the requirements so specific that pretty much you're just fitting things into this little box. Not only did they do that, but there was a new phenomena called impact fees. Somehow we made it from Adam and Eve until about 25 years ago without impact fees. And then they instituted impact fees. Do you guys know how much those cost? They can be as much as $40,000 per house. Okay, so if you have all these new regulations and all these new things, all of this adds up. And time is money. So this is actually what these guys are proposing are mild steps, okay? I can tell you, for example, myself, I'm getting out. Me personally, I'm getting out of the business myself. You want to know why? Because right now, instead of 25 years ago, when this would be a great opportunity for me, this is a terrible opportunity for me. Because I have to wait a minimum of 4 years to know. Well, who's going to take that risk? How many of you like to buy high and sell low? Okay, that is the recipe for loss. So this is simply going to, again, this is some minimal stuff. They're being very rational here, very reasonable, but they're trying to peel it down so that people can respond immediately. I guarantee you, you can build affordable homes here in Arizona. It's what we've always been known for. Arizona has always been a place of affordability. Right. But the pendulum needs to swing back. Cities need to answer their phones. Yes. That's one of the biggest problems. Yes. The response time. Yes. You submit for a permit and you wait 6 weeks to hear back from the city. Correct. And then you immediately do what they tell you to do, and then you wait 6 more weeks. Right. Now, if you do that 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 times, guess what? You've already been waiting a year. So it's time for a culture change in these cities. It's a culture change. If I can order something from Amazon while I'm right before I jump into the shower, and then I walk into the kitchen and my doorbell rings, and it's the package has arrived at my house after I took a shower, and I ordered it right before I took my shower, frick! A city can, please, you can turn a permit around in a reasonable amount of time.
And you pay for it.
And these cities are hilarious. They all say that it's, oh, well, our city's not like that. Okay, go ahead and pull the application date and then pull the date for recorded plat. Okay, that is the amount of time. Their original application, the date of recorded plat. I've had cities tell me, oh, well, we're not like that. And then I challenge them on a plat, and guess what? It's 4 years. It's 4 years. That's the minimum. It takes these guys about 4 years on the minimum. So these are some reasonable things, and we can do this, but we need these things to pass. Any other questions?
Leo, I have a technical question.
Cameron, yes.
Things like eliminating the design review standards and having shot clocks, those sound like elements of legislation that Senator Kaiser had proposed, and those bills died last session. And I believe some of the lawmakers in your chamber who are here voted against them. So what's the difference between these ideas and those ideas from last session that died?
Well, I will let Senator Biasucci and Senator Borelli maybe dig into some of the specifics of what the differences are. It's not all the same. I know there were some density things on those bills. There were some things that they are different. But I know I voted for those things. And I know a lot of people voted for those things. I think one thing that might be different is that people realize that these are good common sense solutions. So you would have to speak to the people that voted no, and I can't speak for those people. There is some distinction, yes.
How much are HOAs possibly responsible for this? I know just...
Yeah, it's a piece of the puzzle. That's a great point. I'm so glad that was brought up. You used to be able to buy without an HOA. And then cities started mandating you to have an HOA. So now you have this extra fee of anywhere from $100 to sometimes as much as $500 a month. That affects your affordability. It should be okay the consumer should have the choice. They should be the ones who get to decide whether they live in an HOA or not. And right now on new homes, they can't decide because the cities have required that you have an HOA. Why? Because the cities want to tell you to design all these really expensive things to maintain and then force you to pay to maintain them. Well, it was interesting when the city was responsible for maintenance, guess what the requirements were for the common areas? Very minimal, because the cities didn't want to spend a ton of money on taking care of. But when they can have someone else pay for it, suddenly the requirements go sky high. So cities should not force you to live in an HOA. If you want to live in an HOA, great. There's plenty of cities and states where they don't require you to have HOAs, and they still have HOAs. Why? Well, because some people want that. Well, if you want it, great. But if you don't want it, you shouldn't be forced to have it. And it makes a big difference because when you're qualifying for a loan, they calculate into your loan what the HOA fees are, and that will lower the amount that you can afford for a monthly payer. The higher the HOA payment is, the less you can afford. Yes, ma'am.
Kind of a follow-up on that. If you build smaller homes on smaller lots with no HOA, certainly will make it a little bit more affordable. Is the goal to build cheaper homes, or is it to increase supply, decrease competition?
Yeah, so, it's to increase competition. Right now, what they're doing, for example, I'm getting out of this business. That's going to reduce the amount of competition. You have a lot of the small builders. It's the large builders who have the big money, the lawyers, the zoning. They can withstand all the requirements. They can sweet talk City Hall and get their stuff approved. Yes. You're basically eliminating all the small guys, which means less competition. Yep. You're wiping out the competition. So the goal here is to increase the competition. The goal here is for all of you to have more property rights. All of you, if you own a parcel of land, we want to make sure all of you can build on that parcel of land, and we want to make sure you can build on that parcel of land quickly. We don't want to make it so that you have to have a zoning attorney represent you or you can't even get it approved. And that's pretty much what it's ended up now. You have to have a zoning attorney or you can't even get your project approved. Okay, we're trying to turn back the tide a little bit here. So this is Economics 101, folks. It's supply and demand. There's not enough supply and government is the problem.
So where does zoning fit into this, Warren? I mean, you have areas that have been zoned for 4 homes per acre or 8 homes per acre. Are we going to be overriding zoning and saying this area is zoned for 4 homes per acre, now we're going to let you put in 8 homes or 12?
So where zoning fits into this is that they're going to give you more rights with zoning. And right now, for example, there's a general plan. Every area has this general plan. And it may say this area of the general plan can have 2 to 7 homes, okay, in the general plan. You'll see cities that will force builders to do 2 homes. Instead of doing 7 homes per acre, they'll force that builder to do 2 homes per acre, even though the range is 2 to 7. Well, why does the city get to decide that? Shouldn't the developer decide that?
I guess it's
so,
back to the question, but if it's zoned, I understand general plan.
Yeah.
If it is zoned 4 homes per acre or 7 homes per acre, will this override and let the owner build more than 7 homes per acre or 4 homes per acre?
They still have to do their zoning. Now, most things are already held at like an R143 zone, which is a 1 home per acre zoning. So what this is saying is that you got to have you've got to allow some of these smaller lots. You can't mandate only large lots. You also got to allow smaller lots, and you got to give people more options and choices.
Where does it say that in there that the city has to allow a certain percentage of smaller lots or something? I didn't see that in the bill. Maybe Sonny knows more about that. I don't know.
So
he's rolling his eyes, so I guess you're on.
Well, it's part of the general plan. I mean, part of the general plan is that you should have some areas where there's affordable housing. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I had a quick follow-up. Is there any protections in this legislation or anything else on the table? There's a big concern about BlackRock and perhaps like Airbnb, people wanting to purchase, starter homes, smaller homes, and use them as vacant short-term rentals. Is there any protections in place to prevent that from happening with this?
Yeah, the protection is placed is that you allow a lot of supply. The problem is the supply has been restricted, so that motivates big companies like that to come in and buy everything up. They didn't used to do that here in Arizona, and they don't do it in other states where it's easy to plat, engineer, pull your permits, where it's easy and quick to build. They don't do that. It's so restrictive now. There is an incentive for them to buy because you can't get the demand out. We're trying to allow for more demand. It takes care of itself. The market will take care of itself. If there's more supply, those guys, you outcompete those guys. Yes, sir.
President Warren Peterson, thank you for all you do, of course, and everybody behind you, they're working very hard. But my question is, I have a lot of college students, and they use it for civil class. What would you summarize this in 2 minutes, like a 1 minute perhaps? I know it's a lot. What would you tell the guy that played by the rules, went to school, did what the city wanted him to do? What would you tell them when they can't get a house? In brief, what you just said, we talked a lot about zoning and about housing, about HOA, but what is a college kid living in college right now, like my kids? What are they going to be looking for in the next year? Yeah,
I mean, it's exactly what we said. I mean, government is the problem here. You know, when I got out of college, I was working at, basically at a receptionist. I had a minimum wage job. I could go around to Arizona and pretty much buy whatever I wanted. A really nice home that you could live in for the rest of your life. You know what my kids can afford? Absolutely nothing. Okay.
What can we do to change that?
You can support. You can help us spread the word that cities and counties are the problem. They're making it take too long for housing developments get approved. The governor is also the problem when she's nonsensically shutting down development. That is the problem. Look, folks, Arizona was told we were going to be a dust bowl in the 50s. We were going to run out of water, okay? Well, guess what we did? We have, with 7.5 million people, we're using the same water that we used when we had 1.5 million people. And home building has tons of regulations and smart, common sense things with water where home building is actually the solution. As you increase the home building pie, you save water in Arizona. Home building is 20% of what the water use is. 80% of the water usage is not home building. And it's completely unregulated. The 80% is completely unregulated. A lot of these subdivisions have been trying to go in that the governor stopped. They would have lowered the water use. You would have taken a farm that was using 7 acre feet, and now that same subdivision would be using 2 acre feet. And the governor said no to that. Why on earth would you say no to that? We could lower the amount of water usage like we have historically and continue to do that. One last question, please.
You said the governor said no to that. I thought it was the Department of Water Resources following the 1980 groundwater code.
Howie, come on. You've been around here forever.
No, seriously.
Come on, Howie. Seriously? You know that's the governor.
Okay,
that's pathetic, Howie.
Wait,
I want a serious question. Is there any other serious questions besides someone who wants to write fake news?
What, the groundwater?
Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. We're happy to answer your questions one-on-one. Thank you very much.